Hello, Narf from Narf Sounds here. I'll be talking about setlist mode. Remember when you bought your Kronos for the first time and turned it on? This is the page that it displayed. Now, what's the point of the setlist? The setlist allows you to organize your sounds in alphabetical order. You can organize your sounds according to the exact order of your set for that night. Each setlist contains 128 setlist slots, and each page can display up to 16. So right now we've got 16 right here. If I press this button, forward, it displays another 16, and so forth. So in this case, the others are grayed out because there's nothing assigned to those setlist slots yet. You can also display just 8 slots and give more room to this section, which is the notes section. You can also display just 4. What can you put in a setlist slot? You can put your programs, your combinations, or your songs. And when you load in a song, you can also decide which track is active. What we're looking at here is the name of the setlist. This is the highlighted version or bigger version of the setlist slot that's selected. So SGX2 Program 00 Berlin Grand is exactly the same as what's in here. This is the comments section or notes section because that's where you put your notes. And these are your setlist slots. There's the play tab. There's the edit tab. This is your EQ. And these are the pages to go forward and back. Your control surface, which refers to the left side of your keyboard. So that just reflects the buttons on the left. Okay. And you've got the drop-down menu wherein you can write the set list. You can do the exclusive solo. You can read the help button. You can press the help button to get an explanation of that. You can initialize the set list. So when you press initialize set list, it'll clear everything out. Okay, so I'm going to actually do that. Initialize set list. There you go. And then you can edit the program. So if the setlist slot is in program mode, if you press edit program, it takes you to the program and you can do edits there and save it. And there you go. It's just a shortcut to program mode. If you fill that up with a combi, that changes to edit combination. You noticed earlier I pressed the initialize set list. If I exit and go choose another set list, it's going to prompt me whether I want to save the changes that I made to that set list or not. And in this case, I'll discard the edits. And if I go back to that preload, it's back to where it was. So nothing is saved until you actually write your set list, or you update the set list by pressing the record write button below the sequencer. Okay, so if I press this button, it will display this dialog, which will give you the option to write or update the setlist. So if you have any minor changes in your setlist, you can just press that button instead of having to write it all the time. Okay, and then we have the legacy slot style. Now, before the Kronos 2, there was obviously the Kronos 1 and the Kronos X. And setlist actually looked different. It was all grayed out. Okay, so you can press legacy slot and it takes you to how the Kronos looked like before the Kronos 2 came out. And this is actually a pretty common mistake, or a lot of people panic when this happens. Every so often I see it in the forums, people go, hey, I can't color my slots, and it's because the setlist slot style has been selected. Now, this menu has a keyboard shortcut. So if I press in the keyboard, right here, the keypad, enter and 0, so enter and 0, this is what happens. It allows you to access the commands here. So I'm going to press enter and 0. it gives me right set list. If you press enter and 1, the exclusive solo is checked. If I press enter and 2, initialize set list comes out. Enter and 3 allows me to edit the program. Enter and 4 brings me back to legacy style slot. Enter and 5 will give me update program. So this is how people end up doing this. Okay, they press enter and 4, and it brings it back to legacy style. So if you want to keep it the way it is, make sure that that is not checked. Let's go to editing the set list. Okay, pressing edit tab, where you can choose from program, combination, or song. We're going to keep edit program. Right now we have the SGX2 program A000 Berlin Grand. So I've got my old Kronos 2 setlist loaded into the Kronos SE. And then you can select the name of the sound. You can change the slot name. Now when you change the slot name, it's just the name of the slot itself. It's not going to rewrite the program. So for instance, if you want to play Imagine by the Beatles, just type in Imagine, and there you go. So now that is the new title of that slot, and it will refer to Berlin Grand as my actual sound. So this is slot 0. So people wonder, you said 16 sounds, but it ends in 15, because the first slot is actually 0, and it follows the MIDI standard of having values from 0 to 127. So you have 128 slots all in all, although the last slot is only 127. That's because the first slot is 0. Okay, so slot 0, and this is the category of instrument. It's a keyboard, and you can change the color. And when you press color, you're given this menu, and I find the most contrast, or the one I like the most, is color blue, and I'll change that. So this slot, I'll change that to blue. Okay, so now that's blue. I can also change multiple slots through this command. I press slots, and from slot 0 to slot 3, so 0, 1, 2, and 3, will all of a sudden turn blue. Okay. Another thing you can do if you want to change color of several slots is to use this button. And so it's brackets and 3 dashes in between. So whenever you press that, that allows you to do a multiple select. So it'll allow you to do a multiple select of consecutive slots. So if I want this whole page to turn blue, I've already pressed the first one and the last one, and it selects all of these slots. And I can change that to red, burgundy. And now that's all red. So that's a shortcut of if you want to color everything. So there's 2 ways to change the color. You can do it per slot, or using this option, or you can multiple select and change all that. So far I haven't saved anything. And if I want to revert to the way it was, I can press the compare button. See, it's back to what it looked like before I did any changes. If I press compare again, it goes back to me changing it all to red. And if I want to revert to everything without the compare button being lit up, I can select the preload set list name. I can select the set list name and press up and down right here. Okay, so if I press up, it's going to ask me if I want to save the changes, and I'm going to go discard edits, and then I'm just going to go back to slot 0, which is the preload. Now let's edit comment. When you press edit comment, it allows you to actually type in notes. You can put in chord charts if you want, detailed instructions. For instance, in my first set list, my note is in big giant type telling me to load the songs before I get started. So this reminds me to load the songs before I even start playing. Some of these songs will have chord charts. So some of them are quite crude. So I've got the intro and then I've got my chords in there. Some of them are done better. Let's see. There you go. So for instance, this song, I actually have brackets to tell me which measures those chords will be. So it's really up to you how you want to type in your chords. So here's one other thing you can do with the notes section or the comments section of your setlist slot. So here I've got you and I. I'm going to edit comment and say, so if I go through that, this is what my notes look like. What I can do is highlight the intro. Say I'm going to do the intro again after the chorus. Okay, and these are my intro chords. So there you go. I can go copy. And when I copy that, that is saved in the clipboard. And if you actually press clipboard, it shows you what you've copied. So I'm going to select that area and then paste right there. And I can just copy some more stuff. I just select that and then highlight and copy. And when I go to the clipboard, I now have the intro and the verse. So I can copy my my notes quite easily in there. So for instance, after the intro, I can now put in a verse somewhere else, like right there. Okay. So for as long as I've got space, there you go, verse. So yeah, that's what you can do with that bit. So now we're back to the notes section of the first preload set list. Okay, so this is edit comment, the notes section or the comment section. Okay, notes section, comment section. Again, you can change the brightness right there. And when you change the brightness, if that's all you're changing, you don't have to save it. It's automatically saved. You can also change the font of your text through here by selecting it here. So you can change the size using the font option. And just like what we did with color, we can do it on multiple slots. So if you want to have a uniform look throughout your entire setlist mode, you can choose 0 to 127 and it'll change the comment section font for all of those slots. Okay, so I won't do that. I'll leave that alone. So that's what font does. On the main screen, you can also slide down and change your font size from here. So that can be done as a quick gesture. Just slide down and change your font size right there. And you can also do the edit comment from here as well, aside from the contrast or the brightness of the font. Volume. Now, one of the things with the Kronos is when you change from one sound to another, you've got different volume levels. Some patches are naturally louder than others, so there's variances per patch, whether it's a program, combi, or a song. So you can actually change the volume of just the slot itself without having to rewrite the program or combi or song, or without having to adjust your volume knob. So just the volume can be adjusted right there. Hold time. It has something to do with the smooth sound transition. Whenever you change from one slot to another and change to that, you notice that the first sound will be retained. Now, hold time allows you to decide how long the effects get held after you let go of the notes. If you play a note, like this one, so I've got the mod 7, and I let go of that, that reverb will last for at most 5 seconds. If I bring that value to 0, the moment I let go and change slot, okay, so you know, see what I did there? the moment I change, that reverb disappeared immediately. Okay, so I'll go back to that mod 7, put the hold time to 5. Do it again. I'll play the mod 7 note and change slot, and you'll hear that reverb linger. So that's what hold time does. One of the best things about setlist mode is you're able to transpose the setlist slot. So I have an example here wherein I play Back at 1 by Brian McKnight. It's in the key of B, which I hate because I like to play in C, which is easier. So Back at 1 is set to -1. It's transposed by -1. And when you change the transposition, there's actually an arrow and a number that appears on the setlist slot, which is fantastic because if you transpose, say, by an octave, the arrow now points up and there's a number 12. So you know that it's been transposed up by 12. And if you wanted to transpose down, so you press minus and then 1 right here, select that, -1. And now I know that if I play a C, it'll play a B. You'll actually hear a B. Just to clarify as well, for those people who play samples, especially one-shot samples, if you transpose, it's possible that that sample might not change pitch. So for instance, if you go to a good example would be Uptown Funk, for instance, and this I get a lot. Uptown Funk, right? Now, if I change the transposition of that one, that what was this note, if I press the same note, it changes. So it's a good idea to be aware of sounds that contain any one-shot samples, because transpose will affect them differently from what you might expect. Okay, so just take note of that. So that's transpose. Whenever you transpose, you get an arrow and shows you the transposition. So what I like to do sometimes is I would copy the same sound in 2 consecutive setlist slots. So if I'm playing a slot and it's transposed by -1, and then I press the next slot, the sound will linger, and I have a seamless modulation in pitch, and I didn't have to relearn the key, which is great. This is one of my favorite features of the Kronos. So that's the edit section of setlist mode. Now another thing that you can do, so that's the edit section of this part. Another thing you can do is cut, copy, insert, and paste setlist slots, which is great because this is really handy. So I'm going to start from an empty setlist. So this is in an initialized setlist, and what I normally do, or what my band usually does, is we kind of recycle the set list, but may have 1 or 2 new songs that we'll be performing for that night. And what I can do is I can refer to a previous gig. So for instance, we played at the Peninsula, and this is our set. Okay, so it starts off with So Into You, and sometimes we're gonna just recycle this entire set with 1 or 2 differences. So what I can do is press edit. So this is the Peninsula gig, and then I can multiple select, press this one, and I'll select 0 to 9. Okay, you notice the 10 is grayed out because on that night we decided not to play it. Okay, so I will copy that, and then I will change this to an empty set list and go OK. And then I'm going to paste. There you go. So now I have just replicated my set list from the Peninsula into setlist 43. What if there are changes in the order of the set? That's not a problem. For instance, what if we're going to play Don't Let Go as our first song? I can just press cut and then put that in the first slot and insert. What is the difference between insert and paste? If I insert, it will move the rest of the slots and put in the slot that you want. What if, for instance, I want to replace a song? For instance, I want Master Blaster, which is that one. I'm going to cut that, and I will put it in this slot, but I don't want that slot to be there anymore. So I have So Into You, and I have So Into You, just the lead sound. And I'm going to overwrite Master Blaster into that. I'm going to press paste. I'm going to press paste instead. And there you go, Master Blaster is there. So that's the difference between paste and insert. Paste actually writes over that slot. Insert inserts it and moves the rest. And it doesn't affect whatever is written there. Now, it can happen wherein you've filled out every slot in your set list, where you have 128 slots. Whenever you insert whatever is in the last slot, slot 127, will be erased. It'll be gone. Okay, if you, because it moves everything by one, and if you slot one in there, and it's out of slots, it'll just disappear. So just remember, once you've filled 128 slots, you can't insert anything anymore without erasing the last thing. Okay. Or how do you add programs or combis or songs in the set list? Easy. You just go to Edit. You can select a slot. So say if I want to put in my combi in slot 9, Edit, select Combination, and I know my sounds are in User F. And let's go Can't Stop the Feeling by Justin Timberlake. I'll change the title of that to Can't Stop the Feeling. So I can type in Can't Stop the Feeling. Okay, so that's method one. What if I want to do the same thing, but I want to do it from combi mode, which is actually the easier way to do it. So I'm going to go select an empty slot. This is slot 10. I'll go to combi mode, and I'll choose a different sound. Cosmic Girl. Let's go Cosmic Girl. And drop down, you can add to set list from here. All right, add to set list. And when you press add to set list, it tells you what it's going to name the slot and which slot it's going to insert it to. So if I get out of here and go to set list, that is slot number 10 for this particular set list. Go to combi mode and add to set list. We've got slot number 10 right there, and it's going to be called Cosmic Girl, and that's what I want it to be called, so that's fine. And I just go OK. So when it does this, when you add to set list, it does an insert command. So that's the same as inserting it to that set list. So it won't overwrite the slot that exists there. So let's put that to the test. So we know slot 10 is empty, but what if I put it to slot 9, which I just loaded with Can't Stop the Feeling? If I go OK, Can't Stop the Feeling is right there, and Cosmic Girl is right there. It's been inserted in between. So it's great. Again, I can't reiterate. I think set list mode is the best feature of the Kronos and blows away any other keyboard out there. You've seen the set list mode of other keyboards. They're nowhere as detailed or as good as this. Okie dokie. So Can't Stop the Feeling. Let's change the color. I like blue because it gives me the most contrast. Let's color them all blue. Oops. Select the first one. Multiple select. Select the last color. And color blue. And that's it. Exit. There you go. Everything's blue. What if you have changes to the set? It's easy. Again, I want to put Can't Stop the Feeling. Cut. Put that into the second slot and insert it. Okay, what if we're going to play Can't Stop the Feeling and modulate a few steps higher, say after the chorus? That's easy, which the song doesn't do, by the way. But you can copy Can't Stop the Feeling, put in the next, insert. Oops, press insert. There you go. Normally, when I have the same song I color code them. I give them the same color. So let's make that green so I know it's the same song. And for Can't Stop the Feeling, the second slot, I'm going to transpose that by 7. So that transposes it by a fifth. So for some reason, we're going to modulate by a fifth. So first glance, I know that these two are the same song or belong to the same performance. So that was my tutorial for setlist mode on the Korg Kronos. I hope you liked the video. If you did, please subscribe to my channel, Narv Sounds, and visit my website, www.narvsounds.com, and also like my Facebook page, Narv Sounds. And if you haven't yet, and you own a Kronos, do join us at the Kronos Enthusiast Workshops Facebook group. We've got tips and tricks and a pretty good discussion on everything Kronos. Really nice community, so you're welcome to join if you own a Kronos. We'll see you there. All right, bye. This has been Francis Narf from Narv Sounds.